Dear Nancy, it's an honor to welcome you to the International ORP Foundation Executive Interview Series 2025. The series features global leaders in occupational health and safety, and this year is particularly special as we celebrate our 25th anniversary of the International ORP Foundation. Nancy, we're so excited to have you with us today.
Thank you, Lilia. It's wonderful to be here. Really appreciate the opportunity to join you during this interview and provide an opportunity to speak to the International Occupational Hygiene Association, IOHA, and its work. And thank you to the International ORP Foundation, and congratulations on your 25th anniversary. Well done.
Thank you so much for your kind words. And before we start, let me take a brief moment to introduce you to our audience. So, today we're thrilled to speak with Nancy Wilk, a current president of the International Occupational Hygiene Association. Nancy is a dedicated leader and industrial hygienist with decades of experience advancing occupational health and safety standards worldwide. Does everything sound correct?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Amazing. So let's give our audience a quick look of what's ahead. So we start by exploring the International Occupational Hygiene Association initiatives. Then we will talk tech. And after that, we will explore what it means to go beyond compliance in occupational hygiene. And we will wrap up by discussing the role of collaboration. That's about it. Are we ready to start?
Yes, thank you.
Great. Nancy, you have played a key role in advancing worker health and safety. As the current president of the International Occupational Hygiene Association, what are some of the most impactful initiatives are you currently leading to enhance occupational hygiene standards worldwide?
Thank you, Lilia. As I said, it's wonderful to be here and to have the opportunity to provide leadership to the International Occupational Hygiene Association. So our mission is to be the global network for occupational hygiene and to, in that, ensure that there is a healthy and safe working environment for all. And so one of our very first initiatives I want to highlight is the partnerships that are so very important among our member associations. IOHA is comprised of 43 associations around the world, and this represents over 20,000 practicing occupational hygienists and occupational environmental health and safety professionals. And so through these partnerships, we seek opportunities to have forums to raise awareness of occupational health and hygiene and the importance of prevention of disease and improved worker well-being. So our members have a local presence within their communities and across their countries and geographies, and some even globally as well. And we also have a number of volunteer committees in IOHA, and this is where a lot of our work is carried out. Just to mention who they are, so we have a National Accreditation Recognition Committee, and this committee is the custodian of the certification process and recognizes occupational hygiene associations that provide certification examinations. And so I mentioned that we have 43 members. Of those 43 members, 18 of those associations are members of our National Accreditation Recognition Committee, or what we call our NAR committee. We also have a stakeholder relations committee that focuses on meaningful partnerships, both building them and maintaining them with our partners. And I will speak to what some of those partnerships look like a little bit later. And we also have an education and training committee, a communications and marketing, which both contribute to webinars that IOHA hosts. Often they are provided by our members, but also other affiliate associations where we have mutual aims and goals. And we also provide a global exposure manager newsletter that provides technical content as well as highlights opportunities around the world where people can connect and also obtain information relevant to both the practice of occupational hygiene as well as the aim to prevent disease and improve worker well-being. And then finally, we have a governance committee that is very important to us as an association. We seek to have a robust governance system so that we can meet both our mission and our vision. I do want to highlight another group, though. We have a couple of working groups, and one of them is having a very meaningful impact. They've had a number of publications, and we're having good participation in it. And it's a working group on a community of practice focused on particulate matter sensor technology. So we'll speak to that a little bit later. So those are just some of the things we're doing. Other things I want to highlight in terms of initiatives under the area of partnerships this year at a very high level, we've had some wonderful opportunities to interact with other organizations. One has been the International Labor Organization, and specifically with people such as the Chief of the Branch of Occupational Safety and Health and Working Environment, Joaquin Nunez, as well as most recently someone that's overseeing a foresight study that the ILO is embarking on with regards to occupational safety and health. We also participate in a global occupational safety and health coalition that has 19 members. These are international associations as well as NGOs, non-governmental organizations. And this particular coalition is calling for greater worker protections globally, as well as an opportunity to provide content in the revision of the next versions of the Sustainable Development Goals that relate to occupational health and worker health. I know I've mentioned a lot there, but those are just some of the exciting things that we're doing, and we can come back to those if you like. So thank you.
Thank you so much. That sounds very exciting, and I love this ambitious vision. And if we zoom in on high-risk industries like mining, which initiatives of the International Occupational Hygiene Association do you see as the most urgent right now?
Yeah, so we do have a number of our member associations that have sectoral focuses where there are high risk concerns, and mining is certainly one of them. Another one would be construction, and then there's a number of industries in the manufacturing sector as well. But specifically to mining, within the last year, year and a half, maybe 2 years actually, the International Occupational Hygiene Association has provided forums both through the Global Exposure Manager newsletter, or the short form for that is called the GEM newsletter. So articles about the mining sector. Most recently, there was an article there with regards to reproductive health and supporting women in mining. With regards to mining, there is a great need for research standards and guidance around occupational health. And so reproductive health, that is just one area in mining. And as mining seeks to diversify its human capital, so specifically have more women in the mining sector at all levels, reproductive health is important. It's also important for men as well, but this article focuses on supporting women in mining. We've also offered a webinar to our membership on rare earth elements. And this was given by one of our members from one of our associations. And mining, there's a lot of pressure on mining to increase its activities and production in the area of critical metals, including rare earth elements. And yet again, there's need for exposure standards, research with regards to both the health effects of some of these constituents that could be potentially harmful, as well as the establishment of standards and guidance. Another area that is very high risk within mining, as well as construction, is just the area of mental health and psychological health and safety. And so at our recent scientific conference last year in Dublin, IOHA 2024, there was some really good research presented by the Canadian mining industry on mental health. Had a participation of over 2,200 miners and was able to identify areas of concern. And that was a collaborative effort through a mining company in Canada, Vale Base Metals, and Laurentian University, and a Center for Research for Occupational Safety and Health. It's also located in that geography. It's interesting that you ask about mining, because the NAR committee that I mentioned, the National Accreditation Recognition Committee, they provide some demographics on, where certified or credentialed occupational hygienists sit. And the higher concentrations of accredited hygienists tend to be in geographies where there is a strong presence of the mining sector or other high-risk sectors like oil and gas. So that's just something that I wanted to mention. And then again, that community of practice on particulate matter sensor technology, some of the specialists that participate in that working group are mining specialists as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's so encouraging to hear how practical solutions are being implemented in high-risk sectors. And as we move on, let's take a look at artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence and digital monitoring are revolutionizing occupational hygiene. Nancy, looking ahead to 2025 and beyond, what artificial intelligence-driven tools or data analytics approaches do you consider game changers in exposure assessment and risk prevention?
Yeah, thanks for that question. I just want to set a little bit of context here. Occupational hygiene, there's a number of elements that we take into consideration when we look at risk of exposure to workers, and we do exposure assessments. The first is what we call a qualitative risk assessment. So we don't do any measurements, but we do an analysis of what is the potential for exposure with regards to a particular worker or group of workers. And when we look at going further than that, it may indicate that we need to do some quantitative risk assessment. And so this has always been the process in the occupational hygiene practice or practice area. And I just want to mention that occupational hygiene has always had a history of using instruments, direct reading instruments, to gather data, and often instruments that can operate in a continuous mode and have always helped us to identify hazards, evaluate those hazards, perhaps issue notices of concern, and then take controls to mitigate that risk. So with regards to that element of our practice, there is a lot of work happening currently around artificial intelligence and digital monitoring that is a game changer. And so one of them that I will highlight now is this community of practice on particulate matter and sensor technology. So this working group has over about half of our membership has representatives that are participating, and they're sharing information on data that's being collected and processes to use data, methodologies, opportunities to ensure the quality of that data, and then standardize some approaches there. One thing I will highlight, there is a challenge with gathering data and certainly with sharing data around privacy and personal information. And this continues to be somewhat of a barrier with regards to advancing in these areas. However, I think the game changer in exposure assessment and risk prevention down the road will be the collective work that we will see happen. And this will be when we get to to the place where we can share bodies of data or good data, bodies of data that is represented by good data. And that data can be applied to implement an integrated approach to protecting the health and safety of workers. It's very exciting. This group has only just been established within the last year. There was a recent publication within an American Industrial Hygiene Association publication, the Synergist. It was related to this specific community of practice that IOHA hosts, and we're looking forward to seeing what's to come further.
Thank you so much. It is such a compelling point. And building up on your response, I would like to ask if you know any real life example where modern technologies help to prevent occupational risk?
Yeah, so very often when we're dealing with hazards that are immediately dangerous to life and health, um, such as gases like carbon monoxide. Um, so a specific application would be to install an instrument in a fixed location where that could operate and monitor in a continuous mode the airborne concentrations. We see applications like this in maintenance shops in lots of different sectors, which could include mining, it could include, other heavy industries, where in a fixed space where heavy mobile equipment is being maintained, perhaps repaired, that these instruments will monitor the air quality, and they would have an alarm set point where someone would be made aware of potentially hazardous conditions and can take action for protection.
So well said. Could not agree more. And now that we have explored the tools, let's talk the strategy. Nancy, with your expertise in industrial hygiene, what strategies can organizations adopt to move beyond compliance to create truly holistic worker health programs?
So this is a great question, because this is an area that I've had a lot of focus on personally, and IOHA has again provided forum for communicating the value, and it's around looking towards integrative and holistic approaches to occupational health and safety and advancing worker well-being. So one of the approaches that we have emphasized as a model for organizations that want to pursue this is total worker health, which is a approach that has come out of the United States, was published by NIOSH, and has been a work underway. There is some work that's on hold right now. However, this approach and model still provides a good strategy and framework for organizations. So what is total worker health? Well, it looks at what you have existing in your occupational health and safety management system, and adds to that other elements of a holistic approach. It has a strong focus on partnerships. There's many partner opportunities to partner with other allied professionals, both internally within organizations, as well as in communities, groups around things like access to green spaces, transportation, a number of psychological, social services within communities where organizations can't provide those services themselves. They can look to communities. And so this is an approach that we have championed to the mining sector, and can be used in any sector. It takes into consideration all aspects of work, as well as how to advance worker well-being. There are some opportunities to do an evaluation if organizations are interested, to determine their readiness to implement such a strategy. And there is a large focus on well-being. Mental health or psychological health and safety is part of it. Yet there are many other indicators there. What else do I want to say about that? Yeah, that's about it.
Great. Thank you so much. And based on everything we have discussed so far, it's clear that global collaboration is key. And as this year, we are so proud to celebrate 25 years of the International ORP Foundation in Cartagena de Indias, Colombia. Nancy, what key topics do you believe should be prioritized in discussions to drive workplace health and safety globally?
I think that I would like to ask, just raise awareness of occupational health and hygiene. When we look at statistics or data that has been published globally, so in 2022, 2021, there was a body of data that was published by the International Labor Organization and the World Health Organization on the global estimates of the burden of occupational injury and disease. And by far, the data points to occupational disease being a much greater risk of fatality approximately 2 million deaths a year. I think it's 1.9 million are related to occupational health and safety risks. 81% of those are related to chronic non-communicable occupational disease. So there's a lot to do in this area. And unfortunately, we do not have a large number of occupational hygienists globally. When you look at our data that comes out of the National Accreditation Research Recognition Committee, we have about 8,500 accredited occupational hygienists in the world. And according to the World Bank, there are 3.5 billion workers. And then if you add to that another 2 billion informal workers, we need to raise the profile of occupational hygiene. We need to continue to champion it as a career opportunity and to provide education pathways so that people can become certified in that area. So if there's opportunity to champion that or just raise awareness of that, direct people to information on occupational health and hygiene, that would be greatly appreciated. The other is a call for increased worker protection globally, and again, related to what I just mentioned, as well as improved worker well-being. I always like to tell people that when you help and support a worker, you're helping their families and you're helping their community. And so this is a very important area of focusing on improved worker well-being. I think partnering with other groups, so de-siloing our work as much as we can, and diversifying our work. It helps us to be more innovative, more creative. We work better, we work safer. Partnerships can produce wonderful deliverables. And a good example of a partnership in the mining sector right now, there is a consolidated mining standard initiative underway that is focused on responsible mining practices. And there are 4 areas where these groups are partnering, and they are well-known associations. So one is Coppermark, the World Gold Council, the International Council of Mining and Metals, as well as the Mining Association of Canada and their Towards Sustainable Mining program. And in there's a lot of occupational health and hygiene content, which is exciting and really, really good to see. I think the other area that will mention is that our sustainable development goals that were communicated by the United Nations, we're pressing in towards 2030 to achieve those goals. And I think, the theme behind that, to leave no one behind, that if we can support those sustainable development goals and achieve those, that's very, very important. I also think it's also important to align with some of the UN conventions around occupational health. There's a couple conventions there, Convention 187 and 155. And so any way in which we can help raise awareness and work with member states to ratify those conventions is really important. And then certainly, just the right for everyone to have a healthy and safe workplace. I think that, any of those messaging would have a wonderful impact. And thank you for asking that question.
Wow, thank you so much. That resonates so much. And how can we ensure that the momentum from events like the upcoming anniversary of the International ORP Foundation continues afterward?
I think to keep the dialogue going, like follow-up is an important thing, right? If we challenge people that are attending that to, okay, make an application, what can you do in your area of influence to help us advance these aims? And then challenge people to make that commitment and then provide a forum to check back in, whether it's, a blog or, a webinar or just a call with a whiteboard or, keep the communication going.
Such a brilliant perspective. Could not agree more. Nancy, thank you for such a thoughtful conversation. And before we wrap up, do you have any final message or piece of advice you would like to leave with our audience?
I just think it's important that when we lead from a place of caring. And this extends to occupational health and safety. And I think that, all of us, many of us, most of us have a job. And so throughout the day, check in with people, show them that you care and just confirm everybody's doing okay. And if they're not, take action.
This is such a beautiful advice. Thank you so much, and big thanks to everyone who is watching. Last but not least, I would like to remind everyone that the 25th anniversary of the International Foundation is just around the corner. Stay safe, stay connected, and follow official channels of the ORP Foundation. Bye bye!
Bye. Thank you.